Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. In this video, I am going to tell you about my 2 visits to the island of Rhodes in Greece. I'll tell you about the food, the history, the beautiful beaches, and exactly why you should visit. If you are new here, I have created this channel to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. I have traveled the world, paid off a house in Spain, and I'm on a creative journey to financial independence. I believe that the road to financial freedom can and should be fun. I hope you'll subscribe and join me on this journey, no matter where you are starting from. I have been to the island of Rhodes twice. Once in 2017 when I went for a 3-day stay over the Easter weekend. What an experience! The second time I returned with my best friend in 2019 and we stayed for over 3 weeks. Here's how it went. The first time I was in Greece, I was staying by myself in Athens for the month of April in 2017. I met up with a couch surfing friend named Kaio. He had just visited several islands in Greece. He said to me, "Everyone wants to go to Santorini and Mykonos, but if you are just going to visit one island, go to Rhodes. The beaches are beautiful and the history is incredible." Kaio went on to tell me that if I visited, I must also drive to Lindos to see the Acropolis. The only Acropolis I had ever heard of was in Athens, so this was intriguing to me. I looked on the map, and Rhodes was actually much closer to Turkey than to the mainland of Greece. As a matter of fact, when you're on the island, from certain points you can actually see Turkey. I was able to book a round-trip flight from Athens to Rhodes on Olympic Air for just €128. I arranged through my Airbnb host for some sort of car rental. It wasn't official, but it was certainly better than the experience I had renting through an agency 2 years later. Someone met me at the airport with the car for me and off I went. My Airbnb rental was in the city of Rhodes, which is at the northernmost point and is the largest city on the island. It can be a little confusing because both the city and the island are called Rhodes, or Rhodos to my Greek friends. Getting to the city of Rhodes by car takes about 20 minutes from the airport. If you were only going to visit the city, you could certainly just take an Uber or a taxi from the airport, as most of the city area is quite walkable. There is much more to discover on the island though, so I'd still recommend a car rental. My Airbnb host, Greg, had planned to greet me at the apartment rental. He ended up letting me know that his son was sick and asked if I could pop down the street to his house. After dropping my things off at the apartment, I went by his house and enjoyed a visit with he and his son. He offered me fresh strawberries and then went to his refrigerator and poured 2 shot glasses of a clear liquid. A week earlier in Athens, I had been served a clear liquid in a shot glass that seemed like sugar water. So this is what I was expecting. To my surprise, it was not sugar water. It burned all the way down. I was laughing on the inside. Greg then told me about a church that would be having an Easter service on that evening. He explained that the island would be full of scheduled celebrations throughout the weekend. I thought it was quite funny that he gave me a shot and then sent me off to church. I decided to pop by the church service out of curiosity. The small old church was full of parishioners that filled the pews, the lobby, as well as the outside courts. One thing that stood out to me was that the entire service was sung. I stood in the lobby and observed. In the middle of the service, there was suddenly a loud bang that sounded like gunshots. To the Greek, it probably just sounded like fireworks. The entire congregation gasped and then slowly began to re-engage in singing. I believe this was a prank that could be credited to young children. Overall, the church visit was a very interesting experience. The next day, I walked through the old town in the city of Rhodes. The history of the old town is incredible, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. That evening, I met a couch surfer for dinner. He took me to a restaurant, and I so wish that I could remember the name. He introduced me to a Cretan salad. He warned me that if I tried to eat one in Athens, that it would not be the same. A Cretan salad includes lettuce, tomatoes, feta cheese, cucumber, onion, green peppers, Kalamata olives, and olive oil. But the ingredient that makes it different from a Greek salad is the barley bread. Like he said, don't try it in Athens, but if you make it to Crete or Rhodes, you're in for a treat. The following day, I took off on a drive for Calathea Springs. The drive takes about 15 minutes from the city of Rhodes. Calathea Springs is a group of natural mineral springs. The water is said to have therapeutic powers. I dipped my toes in the water and enjoyed the scenery. There was a very small entry fee, and this included padded beach chairs and umbrellas for the day. Servers would walk around and you could order drinks and food. As you walk around the grounds, there are beautiful open-air buildings. I could see that there was a place they were setting up for a wedding. It was stunning. If you decide to have a destination wedding, this might be the place to have it. I also drove around the island a bit more on my final day in Rhodes. I visited the city of Lindos, which is at the midway point on the southeast side of the island. This city is home to the Acropolis that was built in the Bronze Age. The site was later used by the Romans and the Byzantines. I enjoyed walking around and taking in the history that also came with the most stunning view. The beach at Lindos is also beautiful. I rented a kayak for €5 and paddled around the harbor with the Acropolis in the backdrop. I fell in love with the island of Rhodes on my first short-lived trip. Once I started a new adventure with my best friend in 2019, I had to make sure that Rhodes was on the list. This time, instead of flying, we took an overnight ferry from Athens to Rhodes. The one-way tickets were just over €100 per person. Keep in mind that this included a cabin with 2 twin beds, so it's kind of like getting a ride and a hotel at the same time. I personally loved the boat ride, and we slept overnight as we sailed across the sea. Ferries are a common form of transport between all of the islands in Greece. I would definitely recommend it as a way to travel. Not only is it a great alternative to flying, but you also get to see the islands from the water. For our Airbnb rental, I was able to work out a discount and specific dates after reaching out to the host. We booked what was supposed to be a 2-bedroom house for our stay. It turned out to be more like a 1-bedroom house with a big open archway between 2 sleeping areas. The house was a little quirky, but after some initial frustration about the rooms, we learned to love it, and the price was unbeatable during the tourist season. We stayed for 24 nights and paid only $576.56. It's worth noting that we were in a small town not far from the airport, but it was about a 20-minute drive anytime we wanted to go to the city of Rhodes. As an Airbnb host, I always recommend underselling and over-delivering. In this case, the house should have been listed as a 1-bedroom, and it should have been clear that the sleeping areas were not fully separate. As for the car rental, well, this is where the story goes wrong. I used Skyscanner to search for car rentals. The best deal was through Vehicle Rent, which is another third-party service. Vehicle Rent then booked a car for us with Alma Car Hire. I believe it was about a mile from the airport with a shuttle service, but in this case we had to be shuttled from the ferry port, which was a bit further away. When we arrived, we were assigned a car that literally had at least 100 little scrapes or bumps all over it. This was the first red flag, and I wish I had listened to my gut in that moment. The manager of the Alma Car Hire tried to sell us the additional insurance, which I never take. He sort of warned us that we should take it. That was red flag number 2. The car was awful, with hardly any power, and really struggled to get up hills. I would joke that I felt like Fred Flintstone and would have to pedal the car with my feet. Ultimately, the car got us around just fine for the entire stay without any incidents. The real problems began when we returned it. They sent an employee out to inspect the car, and the attention to detail was like I've never seen when returning a car. Considering they had given us a car covered in bumps and scrapes, I began to feel uneasy and could just sense a scam. They ended up saying that we had damaged the car in 3 areas. Luckily, my friend had taken a video of the car when we picked it up. She pulled up the video and took screenshots of the damage to show that it had already been on the car previously. When I tried to show the employee behind the counter, he simply looked at me and said, "We don't accept photos." I began to get very heated and raised my voice. I may have used some explicit language as well. I also looked at a couple there to pick up their rental and told them not to rent from the company because they will scam them. The manager ended up coming out of his office and also saying, "We don't accept photos." I was so infuriated that they were trying to steal money from me that I pulled out my phone and said, "Fine, I'm going to record this and let everyone know that you all are thieves." Well, that didn't exactly make things better. The manager ran around the counter, grabbed my phone out of my hand, and then began to slam his hand on the glass sliding door and point to a sign on the wall that said there can be no recording, threatening to call the police. I believe I told him to go ahead and call the police because they were the ones stealing. I tried to grab my phone back from him and he slapped my hand away. I began yelling, "Did you just hit me? Did you just hit me?" He started yelling over and over again to delete the video. I told him I could only delete it if he gave me my phone back. At this point, I was trembling. Part of me was scared and part of me was livid with anger. It's hard to tell at any moment which part of me had more control, the scared part or the angry part. There is something so violating about being taken advantage of. Ultimately, I deleted the video. Of course, the guy didn't understand that the trash on the phone would hold for 30 days. Anyway, after I deleted the video, he calmed down a bit, and he and I had more of a discussion where I showed him the photos. Once he realized that what I was saying couldn't be disputed, he ripped up my contract and told me we would not have to pay for any damages. But he wanted me to go to some website and leave a good review. As if. I learned the lesson that day that if there are red flags with a car rental, trust your gut and find another option. During our 3+ weeks on the island of Rhodes, there were a few places that became our favorites. For history, you just can't beat the old town of Rhodes. It was constructed by the Knights of St. John in the 14th century. In 1522, the Ottomans defeated the Knights of St. John, but they maintained the walls of the old town. Since the 1500s, this beautiful town has barely been touched. While in the town, you can visit the Archaeological Museum, the Palace of the Grand Master, and just stroll all around this beautiful medieval town. For relaxing in the sun, we had two favorite places to visit. One was just on the outskirts of the town of Rhodes and was called Avra Beach Resort. There is an outdoor pool and beach area where you can get a beach chair and umbrella as long as you are ordering food or drinks. One evening we had dinner there with tables along the shoreline and live music. The prices were very reasonable, the food was excellent, and you just can't beat the vibe. On other days, we would drive to Calathea Springs, which I mentioned before from my first trip. It remains a favorite of mine and should definitely be on your list if you visit Rhodes. We also visited Lindos to see the Acropolis and had the privilege of a rooftop dinner at Stephanie's restaurant. It was a magical evening. During our time in Rhodes, there were several other visits to different beaches, and you just can't go wrong, no matter where you visit. When I think about Greece, I always dream of going back to Athens and Rhodes, the two places I've already been. But there are also a lot of other islands to explore. Do you tend to go back to the places you've been or to make plans for something you've never experienced before? I find that I can be pulled in both directions. I hope that this video makes you want to visit the incredible island of Rhodes, minus the car rental experience. I still pinch myself that I had the privilege to be there not just once, but twice. If you have enjoyed this video about Rhodes, Greece, I hope that you'll like it and subscribe to join me every Sunday where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.